5%.
One thing that I wanted to say real quick is I really liked the. It was weird because this Undertaker Bray Wyatt rivalry. It's also weird, and I went from not liking what they did on Raw to immediately liking what they did on Thursday on SmackDown, because it just you kind of expected more when the Wyatt family stole Undertaker and Kane, and instead of there was more to the plan, not that they were just suddenly dead, I guess, or gone. So it felt very out of place for the Brothers of Destruction to just show up and then destroy the Wyatt family. You expected something a little more storyline than Bray Wyatt just let out. Then Bray Wyatt just takes Undertaker and Kane, beats them up, takes them backstage, and just dumps their body somewhere and goes, they're not coming back. And so
it was because the Monday Night Raw that I went to, Bray Wyatt cut a promo. He was talking about how I have successfully harvested the souls of The Undertaker and Kane. And my kayfabe limiter was just right on the edge of, okay, let's take a step back. If you had the ability to harvest The Undertaker's soul, how the hell did you lose at WrestleMania 31?
No, and not even that, because maybe he's got some power since then. But you need to show the harvesting, if it was, and I mean obviously you can't. It's hard to do those sort of special effects that you can't do in movies or something. But when they beat up the Undertaker, they bring out a casket, throw him in it, and then lights flash and whatever, and then Bray Wyatt laughs maniacally. They do the same with Kane. Then it's just more believable instead of, oh, I dragged your unconscious bodies back there, and now I have your soul. But anyway, I went from really disliking how they did that to, in my opinion, Undertaker is saving the day because they're giving him actual promos. There's been a lot of times when a lot of times since he's been back that they don't give him real promos, like with the build up to Bray Wyatt, where it's it's just Bray Wyatt talking to nobody, and then boom, Titantron, the man comes around. They didn't and then I think Undertaker says rest in peace. But they gave Undertaker a good sized promo, and I just gotta say, his body aside, Undertaker's voice has not aged a bit. The promo he had there took me back to watching some of the stuff from the mid 90s Attitude Era, and that was really cool, and I hope they give Undertaker more promo time before Survivor Series in this coming week. So that was what I really enjoyed watching this week.
Well, something that I know Torque and I enjoyed is an NXT match that I was watching, and I sent a text to both of you, I think, although I think only Torque responded to it, as oh my God, go watch NXT right now. And it's wait, that's tonight? It's yeah, it's tonight. The match is Bayley, the Hype Bros, versus Alexa Bliss and Blake and Murphy. And the match was thoroughly entertaining. It was a throwaway tag match solely to set up the NXT Women's Championship match, which I believe is happening this week. This week being the 16th or something, I think is when it is. Or no, the 19th, details. And the match was going along with a lot of the crowd being on point They were putting over the Hype Bros big time, which normally they don't do. And then Bailey gave Murphy a Bailey to belly and ran off.
It was fantastic. It just made me feel good. Like the audience, obviously played a big part, but I think the Hype Bros also had a lot to do with it as well. I don't know if I said this in a podcast, but I once said that I was afraid of Mojo Rawley getting buried because it's stay hyped, and I've seen videos where he's like, "Oh, it's 3 a.m. and I'm pumping iron," and it's like, just go to bed, dude. we don't care. So I got a little nervous like that, like he's gonna turn into this annoying like little child that's always hyped. But when I saw him perform, I kind of took that back because we don't really see him backstage that much. So if he's just on stage getting hyped and staying hyped, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, let's not take away from the fact that his character is kind of that he is annoying, but no, he is. They're kind of treating him like he's a real competitor when he's along Zack Ryder. The one issue I had with this match, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the match itself, it has everything to do with the Hype Bros. It's the name of their finisher. Now, they call it, what was it?
The Hype Rider.
Hype Rider or something.
Yes.
And it's like Mojo Rawley picks him up on their shoulders, Legion of Doom style, and then Zack Ryder gives him a Rough Rider from off the top rope. So I was sitting there and they say, "Oh, it's the Hype Rider." And I'm like, why don't they call that the Hyperdrive? And I just kind of sat there for a good 10 seconds just kind of staring at the screen like, no, that's the Hyperdrive. I'm going to call it the Hyperdrive from now on. Hype Rider sounds dumb. Hyperdrive sounds cool.
Gibby, I don't think Gibby watched it, no?
No, I didn't watch it. Okay. So I'm a backseat driver. Although I did see on Twitter that the double B's, I can't say it right. The Bailey to belly. I did see that move, and I knew I thought it was funny because I just knew right away watching the opening of it. I'm like, she is gonna give him a Bailey to belly. She is gonna do it. There it is, and now she's gone. So, I did see that part of it.
The part afterwards was a little weird because Alexa Bliss stole the title and then Bailey went after her. That part was just a little weird. It wasn't necessarily a heel thing she was doing. It was just kind of like you're like acting like you're 12 almost. Like Ambrose stole the title from Reigns, but he made it pretty funny. Whereas Alexa Bliss stole the title and then she went in the back to take pictures, which I don't understand. I get if you're trying to do a heel thing, but like, if you win the title, you'll have plenty of time to take pictures. So there's no reason to be like that kind of cocky, I guess, in my opinion.
Well, her whole character, Alexa Bliss, is that she's just a cocky little princess. Like, that's her character. For the love of God, her last name is Bliss. Need we say more? Like, just look up, I know you can't do it now, but go look up Alexa Bliss's, like, original theme music before she just took Blake and Murphy's theme, and you'll be like, oh, no, like, her whole gimmick is that she's a princess. Like, her music before was, it kind of exemplified the whole, yeah, she's a little full of herself, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. It just felt weird to me. It didn't feel like it didn't feel like a heel thing to do. It just felt childish. I don't know how else to describe it, but yeah.
All right, let's get into our Survivor Series predictions here.
All right. Let me pull up the brackets right now for the tournament because this whole thing is a little bit of a mess right now. So I think it's the matches that are going to happen tomorrow, I believe, are Roman Reigns and Cesaro for the quarterfinals, and Kevin Owens versus Neville for the quarterfinals. Then it's Ziggler and Ambrose in the quarterfinals, and Del Rio versus Kalisto.
All right, I see. Since those aren't Survivor Series matches necessarily, the people I predict going through, putting on my magical booking cap, people I predict going through. All right, you know what? Never mind about the brackets in particular. The final match for the championship is going to be between Dean Ambrose and Cesaro. And yes, so Cesaro beats Roman Reigns in my booking area tomorrow. In the way I would book this. Cesaro beats Roman Reigns, Ambrose gets through, and really, based on the really the crowd would probably be 50-50, but in a Cesaro-Dean Ambrose match, I'd be more rooting for Cesaro because Cesaro's been been screwed just a little more, just more times. He's been around longer, been held down. I mean, Vince McMahon publicly outed him on the network as saying he can't connect to the audience. So I mean, that's what that's Cesaro's push that he's getting right there. So then he'll face, or Dean Ambrose will lose, and Cesaro wins. Cesaro thinks he's won the championship, and then the Authority comes out and says, and Triple H comes out and says essentially the same thing that Vince McMahon said a year and a half ago, however long it was, on the Stone Cold podcast. Says Cesaro isn't good enough to be champion, blah blah blah, and then he cuts, and he goes, I have my own Authority champion, and then Roman Reigns' music hits, and it turns out Roman Reigns sold out because he lost to Cesaro. So then Roman Reigns and Cesaro face each other in immediately for another title match, and then Roman Reigns wins and becomes champion. So then you have heel Roman Reigns, you have a Cesaro that's very pissed off, and Dean Ambrose is in there somewhere.
So, quick question: would Reigns beat Cesaro cleanly?
Well, it would be. I mean, yeah, you could have him cheat. I don't think it matters to that extent because it's already an unfair advantage that Cesaro just wrestled a match. So I mean, to me, that's a dusty finish that Cesaro wrestles 2 matches in a row. So I see. You could have him, and if you wanted to push Cesaro even more, have him almost beat Roman Reigns, and then Triple H or Stephanie McMahon has to cheat for Roman Reigns to win. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter from that perspective, because either way, you still have heel Roman Reigns, who's champion.
I mean, you're thinking about it in a very progressive, building stars kind of way, which I like, and I agree with you, that should happen. My prediction, however, because I don't hold Vince McMahon to be that smart because he's panicking right now that he doesn't have a champion, my prediction is that it's going to be Reigns and Ambrose in the final, and whoever turns heel is walking away with the championship. Because they want to fill that void that Seth Rollins used to fill. And they're looking for a quick and easy way to do it. And I wish that they would put over Cesaro as like a big-ass babyface right now, but I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to go the traditional route, just have Reigns and Ambrose in the main event.
I'm actually a little more confident that Roman Reigns will turn heel, mainly because what was I going to say? The Authority has gone to every Shield member except Dean Ambrose of saying, "Oh, we strongly considered you, except Dean Ambrose, because obviously they chose Seth Rollins, and now they're trying to get Roman Reigns, but none of them have even like considered Dean Ambrose. So I'm not thinking Dean Ambrose is gonna have any reason to turn heel. So that makes me a lot more happier.
Yeah, I mean, when the initial rumors about Dean Ambrose turning heel surfaced, I was kind of I looked back at some of the promos that Ambrose has had opposite the Authority, and I think I don't understand how it is that they could have this guy be the Authority's champion. Let's think about this. A heel, I get it. He could be a heel. I just don't see him selling out to the Authority. Ambrose is a little bit the unhinged side of him. It wouldn't fit with the Authority, in my opinion. So I hope that Reigns turns heel. I really do. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, there's details saying that maybe they will turn Reigns heel based on the fan reactions that he got in the UK. Because it was pre-recorded. This Raw was actually pre-recorded. And they kind of dubbed over when Triple H and Roman Reigns were doing their thing at the start of the show. Because when Triple H said, just be my man, be my guy, be our champion, the entire crowd was pretty much just doing a yes chant, or they were doing something along the lines of, yeah, do it, we don't like you.
I heard that too, and I was like, oh my god. I think it's just because, those were hardcore fans. Everyone in that arena, they were hardcore fans, hardcore wrestling fans. And I was very happy.
They have to be, because the WWE only comes to each city in the UK one night every year.
Yeah, exactly, which is the even better thing about it. So we actually get fans who know what they're talking about, rather than the one we went to where people are chanting for Summer Rae.
Yeah, of course, we went to a SmackDown. The Raw I went to, the entire arena was chanting for Roman Reigns, so there is kind of there's a divide on what the fans want, depending where it is they are.
Well, I mean, there's a divide on what the fans want, but I feel like our half would be a lot better.
Yeah, but so ultimately, we're basically in consensus that Ambrose is going to be in the main event. So statistically speaking, we all have Ambrose favored to win, statistically speaking, although I don't think that he is.
Even though neither of us definitively said he's gonna win, but
yeah, it's just that the one trend between all three of us is that we said that Ambrose would be in the main event.
Well, because Ambrose is just a good linchpin. He's good at holding everything together, kind of. He's the one that made Seth Rollins the biggest heel, the biggest heel in WWE. Right after the heel turn, betraying the Shield, and then somehow, for some reason, Dean Ambrose came out white hot after that, and then the Dean Ambrose Seth Rollins feud. That feud hadn't happened. If that feud hadn't happened, then Seth Rollins wouldn't be where he is today.
No, I agree with that. But real quick, let's go around real quick, say who we think is going to be champion walking out of Survivor Series, just real quick, and then we'll move on to the next few confirmed matches.
Well, I think we all think it's Roman Reigns, regardless. I mean, even Gibby's booking thing involved Roman Reigns being champion.
Heel or not, Roman Reigns. I think Roman Reigns is going to be champion, but it depends how they do it, which is going to be whether I like it or not.
Mm-hmm. Then I'm also looking at this bracket, and the way that it looks is the semifinals matches are both going to contain Del Rio and Owens. So I don't know what the status of the Intercontinental and U.S. title matches are. I'm hoping they'll announce something on Raw, but I don't think so.
Probably not. And I heard another thing. I don't know when this will happen, but obviously when John Cena comes back, he'll probably feud with Alberto Del Rio. But because he gets his rematch. But I also heard that he's gonna take off less time than he originally thought. So he could be back sooner to take away the U.S. title.
Well, that's what happens when your champion goes down. You gotta recall the troops.
But like, I've almost forgotten that about Alberto Del Rio. Like, he came back and I was so happy, and then he got paired with Zeb Coulter, right? Is his name?
The storyline is killing his comeback. That's what it is.
I don't want to say it was a bad idea because it sounds good in your head. Kind of.
Trust me, it's a bad idea. First of all, they're trying to make them out as a heel, these people who are saying we should unify these countries, yet they're booking them as a heel. Like, don't believe me, Alberto Del Rio and Kevin Owens were, like, fighting on the same side in that Fatal 4-Way match that was, like, 3 weeks ago now. And Kevin Owens, very clearly a heel. Alberto Del Rio, not a heel in the eyes of the fans, but the fact that he's fighting alongside him, that's what a heel would do. Given the fact that Ziggler and Reigns were in the match with them.
Well, what I think they're trying to do, what creative is trying to do with Alberto Del Rio, is obviously they needed a Hispanic superstar, a big one, and so what they're trying to do is they're trying to manufacture the natural heat that's needed for Alberto Del Rio to be a face to Mexican or Hispanic fans, but a heel to American fans, kind of like Bret Hart, where he was the ultimate tweener, because Canada, they cheered for him, loved him. In the U.S., they didn't cheer for him, didn't love him. So, like, they're trying to create that sort of Bret Hart character with Alberto Del Rio, and it's getting mixed in between because, like, U.S. is like U.S. fans are gonna go, hey, you know, or the intelligent fan is gonna go, hey, this storyline isn't working. Like before, in Bret Hart's in the mid to late 90s, Bret Hart's character was part. It could be created. Words are difficult, especially when you're fishing for them. But because kayfabe hadn't been completely and utterly torn apart yet, you could believe that this guy really did just like Canada, didn't like the U.S. at all, and that character was believable because of the time period it was in, and because it was natural, because of Bret Hart's disdain for really the WWE. So in general, the behind the scenes politics behind it.
Yeah.
And now now it's different because everyone knows pretty much everything, so we realize that Alberto Del Rio's coming back because he's got lots of money, he's got everything, and I'm a big proponent of trying to look at storylines without the background information, but sometimes it's really difficult when someone got, in this case, when someone got fired probably unfairly and then comes back for a lot of money. Then it's hard to push the storyline down our throats.
Yeah, I just I don't like this whole angle. I wish that they would have brought Del Rio back in a different fashion, but this is what we got. I guess we got to deal with it. Actually, it kind of made me think a little bit that when Cena comes back, I almost want him to win the U.S. title back because, first of all, the U.S. Open Challenge was thoroughly entertaining, despite Cena always winning. But that belt, it almost just seems like it's the Cena belt, you know? Like the United States Championship just feels like it is the Cena belt. Like, that's the belt that he should be holding right now because we don't really want him with the big title. The Intercontinental Championship seems kind of odd to put on him. But the U.S. title, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, that's Cena's title. Anybody else? You get what you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just, with Cena holding the title again, I mean, it's gonna be hard to find someone to take it off him again. You know, I mean, Alberto Del Rio beat him in a weird fashion. So I mean, it's just one of those things, you know.
Yeah, this whole thing was kind of like, it would be nice if I could look at this from a not background politics perspective, but I just can't because there was so much muddiness to this whole thing. Cena's taking time off. Okay, we got to get the title off of him. Who are we going to give it to? Okay, let's give it to Del Rio. Okay, let's give him a storyline where he's supposed to be a heel, but the fans are cheering him, and he's doing this weird stuff. He had a weird promo with Jack Swagger. It's a mess.
Yeah.
Anyways, to pull this back, we don't know what the status of those title matches are at Survivor Series. One thing that I'm ultimately disappointed about, and this kind of leads into two possible matches, one guaranteed and one possible, is that they're not doing Team Taker versus Team Wyatt at Survivor Series. Instead, they're doing Taker and Kane in a tag match against any two of the Wyatt family.
Yeah, it seems too odd to be the original plan. Because, I mean, we obviously thought that the fifth member was going to be Adam Rose. I mean, he's had those creepy promos, and there's, been that bunny rabbit thing in the back. But anyway, I mean...
I do think he got injured, though. That could be what it was.
Injured or something happened backstage. There's no way that this did not happen. Because, I mean, it just seems weird to... I mean, it makes sense to put, oh, hey, Brothers of Destruction, but it feels weird to have Bray Wyatt say any two of my choosing, you know? So I think he's going to pick Braun Strowman and himself. That's what I think, but...
Yeah, and this match just seems like... I mean, I kind of agree with Trevor that... I agree with Trevor that this match seems weird, and really, it's weird enough that I think that it shouldn't be happening. But at the same time, it's very difficult to say with the current run of creative booking, it's very difficult to say that this wasn't the plan all along. Because either way you look at it here, you either have just the Brothers of Destruction versus just the just two members of the Wyatt family, and in any other pay-per-view that would make sense. Like if it was Hell in a Cell, or if it was any other pay-per-view, that would make sense given this current storyline. But because it's Survivor Series, and it's the 25-year anniversary of Survivor Series, you think, hey, this screams to be a Survivor Series match. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it would help the careers of the three other people, or the three other wrestlers that are put in this match with The Undertaker and Kane. It would help their profile. But really, storyline wise, you're just shoehorning in three wrestlers to face the Wyatt family, and then you're kind of shoehorning in Adam Rose if he was gonna morph back into Leo Kruger. There's just a whole lot of adding that doesn't make sense, that's just excessive to the storyline. So that just leads to they either didn't plan, or something fell through so that they couldn't push the other wrestlers for it to make sense in the storyline, or this was their plan all along and they're just gonna be like, haha, Survivor Series match, no thank you.
Yeah, it's just it seemed like a Survivor Series match was set in stone, because even after Hell in a Cell, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be Taker and Wyatt. It's going to be Team Taker, Team Wyatt. And I knew that from the second that Hell in a Cell got over. But now it's just a tag match, which, okay, I guess if you're going to, since it is his 25th anniversary, I suppose you should give him a win. This is kind of the easy way to do it, and I don't like it because it seems too easy. But this raises another question. are we even going to have a 5-on-5 traditional elimination tag match? Because you think about it, if they are going to have it, they now have 1 week to build it, and they have almost no storyline to back it up.
And there's like no two people to face either, because there's not a Seth Rollins versus, I don't know, I mean, he was the champion, so Seth Rollins is out. I mean, Ambrose and Reigns will probably fight for the title. I mean, there's no one else. There's no one else to build a 5-man team.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and something else to think about is that there's been a Survivor Series match every year at Survivor Series, and someone either in the comments or if one of you knows, you can correct me, but there's been a Survivor Series match every year at Survivor Series but it was broken, that streak was broken in 98 when there was the tournament that crowned The Rock champion. So I think that so obviously I would like to go for a semi-repeat of history where Roman Reigns rocks out the Authority champion. And, I think that could be just a little homage to 98 that they're doing with this Survivor Series, where there's a tournament, someone who was a face will turn heel and become a champion, and there's not going to be a Survivor Series match.
Yeah, I mean, there is a real possibility that there won't be a Survivor Series match. It's just, I don't know, they had a very easy setup for one, and they're just deciding not to do it, so I don't know.
I personally would have enjoyed seeing a Wyatt family versus Taker team.
Yeah, because you think about who could be on Taker's team, well, one person comes to mind really easily, and that's Finn Balor. Like, think about it. They have a mystery fifth partner the same way that Taker was in 1990. And just in the same way it was at, like, Brooklyn, you hear kind of those, like, weird demonic sounds. The crowd, like, the arena goes dark, the red smoke comes up, then his music hits, the crowd would go ballistic. Like, let's be honest here. You don't get the pop that he did in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center and then not get a massive pop when he makes his main roster debut. So there's one very easy member of Team Taker, but that's not going to happen now because reasons. There's one more match that I know is going to happen, and that's Charlotte versus Paige. Why am I not interested in this match?
Well, as I was about to say, so what you're saying is bathroom break at that point.
Yeah.
And it's not interesting because in general for me, Paige's character isn't interesting at all. And like whether it's face or heel, like when she debuted a couple years ago or one and a half years ago, like it was all like her character was all right. When she was in NXT, her heel character was all right, but like really for her it's in the wrestling, and that's the only thing I can say. Like she has the potential to have a good match with Charlotte, but a good match is just a good match. It needs story to go with it to create, in my opinion, story and quality of match need to blend together. One can be a little bit better than the other, and it can still be considered a good match. But, like there's just not any interesting story with any divas, like, in general. Like that would be my biggest problem with the divas division. Even even a little bit in NXT sometimes, where the storylines don't match up, so the wrestling's good, but overall you still feel unsatisfied. Because then it's just because like last night would be at the time we're recording this, where Ronda Rousey loses to Holly Holmes. Like in a regular match, Ronda Rousey losing, big deal, but not that big a deal. It's the storyline behind it where she's undefeated and, one of the biggest stars on the planet, and she loses out of nowhere to someone that I unanimously heard wasn't good enough to beat her. So if anyone was good enough to beat her. So, like, the story behind it, even with something which isn't wrestling involved at all, it's a real sport, quote unquote. So, like if Ronda Rousey lost six matches ago, it probably wouldn't have been it definitely wouldn't have been as important. But the story, the narrative going into it makes it a big deal that Ronda Rousey lost. Same goes for wrestling matches. What's the story going into it? Why should I care who wins and how?
I think Paul Heyman was the manager of Holly Holm. My client is the 1 in 12 and 1. Anyway,
Holly Holmes,
the reigning, defending, undisputed, bantamweight champion of the world. Somebody say it.
Holly Holmes. Anyway, so like the problem I have with this match is that we had this big Divas Revolution, which basically just kind of went away. I mean, you brought
Excuse me while I go throw up. You said Divas Revolution.
Well, that's what they're calling it. I would like to call it women's, but it's so hard when they refer it to Divas. You brought in Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Sasha Banks. So what happened was Charlotte won the title, like, easy. Like, almost, it was nothing, essentially. Like, Nikki cannot beat Charlotte. But Paige was already on the main roster, so you're having this big revolution, but you're only using one of the 3 people you've brought up. And plus, it was confusing with Paige for a while, like, is she face, is she heel, what is she doing, why is she doing this, why does she care, kind of a thing. And then the crowd's chanting, we want Sasha Banks, but Vince McMahon was like, we want Sasha? Alright, I'll give you a match with Paige. Okay? And it's just...
Yeah,
it's really pissing me off, and I wish Becky would have turned heel, because I feel like she has more of a reason to turn heel. Because,
and what I would say to that is that Vince McMahon occasionally knows what he's doing, and just because the crowd is chanting for Sasha Banks doesn't necessarily mean that behind the scenes Sasha Banks is ready for it. So, I mean, he could be wrong. He could be not wrong. Like you gotta take it with a grain of salt. He's the one in charge anyway. But if there's someone, when people are chanting for somebody, whether it's Cesaro or Sasha Banks, and fans want them to be in the main event spots, and if they're not in the main event spots, that means someone somewhere who's in charge doesn't think they're ready for it. And I mean, we can do all the moaning we want. Like I just said, I think Cesaro should be getting pushed. I don't know what goes on backstage. There could be a very valid reason besides what is being said that they don't think Cesaro is ready, or they don't think Sasha Banks is ready.
Except for, you see, that's the problem. The problem here, and we keep saying, why is there that they don't have enough people to have a 5-on-5 Survivor Series match right now? Why is it that they're going to default back to Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose almost guaranteed to main event? It's because WWE fundamentally is afraid to pull the trigger on new talent. And so somebody in the back saying, oh, Sasha Banks isn't ready, when they could say they're not ready forever. You don't know if they're ready until you toss them into the fire and see whether or not they can climb out. And I mean, if you want to talk about someone who has the odds in their favor to be ready, and this isn't just because I'm a Sasha Banks fan, it's partially because of that. But the thing is that you don't get a sold-out Barclays Center for an NXT show where she's in the second to last match, which is the first main event according to them. You don't put her in front of 17,000 people, I think it was, where everybody's chanting and they're into the match almost more than the NXT title match, and say, okay, she's not ready to main event. Because she main evented. It was in the Barclays Center. It was on the network. So I don't see why it is that they keep saying that she's not ready unless they're too scared to pull the trigger on her.
All right, and that's the point. That's the point I was making earlier. Given by what we've seen, she's ready. But the people who coach her, especially the people in charge, they see her besides what's on TV. And what's on TV is very important. But if there's something that could potentially hold her back behind the stage that we don't know about, they're at the better chance of knowing that. Also, flipping that, like, I agree with you. From what we've seen, Sasha Banks can main event. But at the same time, you can't blame WWE for not being trigger happy when there's hundreds of millions of dollars on the line if they fail. Think about it. They tried to pull the trigger on Roman Reigns, who we thought way back when was ready, and then they tried to pull the trigger on him. Didn't work. Everybody realized Roman Reigns wasn't ready, but they're like, hey, but WWE created Vince McMahon, whoever was like, we've already pulled the trigger. We gotta let this bullet go. then all of that craziness happened when Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble after no one wanted him to win the Royal Rumble, it was something like 200,000 people unsubscribed from the network based off of just Roman Reigns winning. So you can't blame them for being trigger happy when there's that kind of momentum on the line, that kind of money.
My thought on that is that the difference here is that people want somebody like Sasha Banks or Becky Lynch to be in the main event, or want to be in the Divas title match at least. Roman Reigns, I didn't like him I didn't like him from Night of Champions on, and it's not because he was gone for the majority of last year. It's the fact that when he came back, I knew they're going to have him win the Royal Rumble. When he made his return at TLC, I was like, I don't want this guy to win the Royal Rumble, but he's going to win it. I can tell just right off of this, because that's exactly what WWE would do. Nobody really wanted Roman Reigns to win the Royal Rumble, but they went and pulled the trigger on him anyways. The difference here is that people want Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch, but they're not pulling the trigger. That's my issue with this. Or it's Cesaro, for example. People want Cesaro in the main event. The booking that you did earlier in the podcast is exactly how I would want this to happen, but I know they're not going to do it, and people clearly want Cesaro to be in that main event, but they're just not pulling the trigger on him because they're afraid of it. Yet when they pull the trigger on people we don't want, they're like, well, this is what we're going to do. It's like, why don't you just put over who we're cheering for?
No, but
that's an entire pipe bomb I could go off on.
The point is we wanted Roman Reigns, and then when they pulled the trigger, we suddenly realized we didn't want it. That's something that as a fan base we kind of have to put on ourselves now when WWE is hesitant to pull the trigger.
Maybe. I don't know 100% about that, but ultimately we've kind of gone off on this for a little bit. My general prediction for Survivor Series is this is going to be a mess. And that's not really the WWE's fault that Survivor Series is going to be a mess. I mean, you can't really account for your champion getting injured, but we got to move forward with it anyways. So I'm optimistic, but I think it's going to be messy. So last thing that we were going to talk about is, to close out the podcast, is we were going to talk about our top 5 favorite matches, just us personally, right?
Yep. I have
So
my
do we
top
want to
five
go?
right here in front of me. If someone else wants to start, that's totally fine.
Do we want to go? Like we say our 5, then we say our 4. Like I go, Trevor goes.
Alternately,
Yeah,
alternately.
let's do that.
All right. Well, I guess I'll start. I do have these right in front of me. Is my number 5 pick, and my number 5 pick was kind of like it really was like all the spots on here were kind of up for grabs for other matches, except for like my number 1 and my number 2. This one was Eddie Guerrero versus Brock Lesnar, No Way Out at 2004. I kind of looked at it as, of the matches that I went back and watched, said that I enjoyed, which ones could I watch through the whole thing without fast forwarding, without looking at my phone? And this was the one that managed to pull it out for the number 5 spot. So Eddie Guerrero winning the title off of Brock Lesnar. He lies, he cheats, he steals. Well, he cheated and he stole that title away from Brock Lesnar. That's my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is you'll see a trend of wrestlers, because really there's a quick count 1, 2, 3, 5 wrestlers in my top 5. So there's the trend of matches, and they're all from a reasonable time period forward. Like, I didn't spread it out across a wide range. I didn't span it out from WrestleMania 1 to WrestleMania 31. So my number 5 is The Rock versus Mankind at Royal Rumble 98. That's the one where it was the I Quit match, where The Rock literally beat Mankind's head in with something like 19 unprotected headshots with a chair. And then, rock bottoms, DDTs through tables. Mankind ended up getting thrown through some sound equipment. Like, it was a very, it was entertaining in many different ways because of the storyline that was involved, where The Rock was willing to do any match besides an I Quit match to face or to beat Mankind for the title. And then the promo, the story leading up to it, where The Rock says, is naming off matches and Mankind keeps saying no, and then The Rock goes, you know what, I quit. And Mankind goes, there it is. The I Quit. I'll be in an I Quit match with you. And then the fact that the excruciating amount of violence in it, like that, it's sad that that's probably not my most violent match that's on my top 5, but the excessive amount of violence in there, and then the fact that at the end The Rock can't even beat Mankind, so they fake Mankind saying I quit, and so The Rock can be champion. So the story and the delivery of the match was all very entertaining. The Rock versus Mankind, I Quit, Royal Rumble 98. That is my number 5 pick.
All right, my number 5. It's a little weird. I mean, I'm not as. I mean, I didn't watch the match. No, I did watch that match that Gibby watched, but I had to pick this one because it still is. I picked Sasha Banks versus Bayley at NXT Takeover. It was not the 30-minute Iron Woman match. The
Takeover Brooklyn.
Takeover Brooklyn. Now the reason I picked this was because it stepped up the Divas division, the women's division. Sorry, it stepped up the women's division, and it set that bar for everyone to pass, and that's what I liked most about it. And plus, Sasha Banks and Bayley had great chemistry, and they showed the potential that the women's division could be something way bigger. I mean, they main evented. I mean, how many I don't even know if there's been any pay-per-views where the women have main evented. And I mean, Sasha Banks, I mean, this was a great heel versus face. Obviously, Bayley makes a great face. I'm a hugger. And Sasha Banks makes a great heel. I mean, she made Izzy cry, which I'm still not sure what her relation is to Bayley. But anyway, that's what I chose as my number 5 just because of the importance behind it. And plus, it was a great match.
Are you talking about TakeOver Brooklyn or TakeOver Respect? Because you referenced things that happened in both of those 2 matches.
Oh.
Because Izzy crying happened at TakeOver Respect. Sasha Banks entering as champion, the heel versus face thing was Brooklyn. Was TakeOver Brooklyn.
Yeah, Brooklyn.
Yep. That's the one that you're talking about?
Up. Yes. Their first match.
Okay, yeah, that was TakeOver Brooklyn.
Okay, my bad. I got a little mixed up. But anyway.
Okay, so my number 4, this one, there were a couple of things that could have made it into the number 4 spot. I will tell you which ones were very close, but I didn't put it in here. In fact, I almost put an entire Royal Rumble in for my number 4 spot, and that was almost the 2010 Royal Rumble where Edge won. My number 4 was Triple H versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 27. People are thinking, what? Why not WrestleMania 28? That had Shawn Michaels in it. It was Hell in a Cell. And I'm like, well, this match, I liked it on the icon status that it had. I liked Triple H's entrance. I liked Undertaker's entrance. And it was also probably the best match from WrestleMania 27. And that WrestleMania is widely regarded as a terrible WrestleMania, yet this match was really good. So when this match can hold up an entire WrestleMania, you know that it has some gold in there. And it also has Triple H giving The Undertaker a tombstone. And for 2.5 seconds, everybody thought the streak was over right there. Then Undertaker kicked out, and it was a solid match.
You also like it because that was the first match I ever showed you.
Yes. At least I think it was.
It was the
I
first
actually
match.
think that Mankind and Taker at King of the Ring 98 was the first thing. I think that was the first match that you showed us, or showed me at least.
Yeah, it possibly. Well, it was all in one sitting. Let me rephrase that. It was one of the first matches in the same sitting that I showed you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. My number 4. You hear this name twice already. It's The Rock versus Stone Cold, WrestleMania 19. This was the go-home match of the feud. The Rock had never beaten Stone Cold before. Both of them were pretty much going to go their separate ways from the country. Or from the company, I mean. The Rock would go on to film movies in other countries, but that's besides the point. But this match had the story behind it where the Stone Cold cleanly beat The Rock at WrestleMania 15, and then Stone Cold had to sell his soul to Vince McMahon to beat The Rock in WrestleMania 17. And so now it's The Rock's turn, where The Rock's still a heel, Stone Cold is the face again, and but The Rock does very entertaining things. They both do very entertaining things, steal each other's moves, where one of the few times you'll see The Rock give a Stone Cold Stunner to Stone Cold, and very entertaining selling, and and just the call from JR, how it takes 3 rock bottoms in a row to finally beat Stone Cold, like. From a wrestling standpoint, it wasn't, an extraordinarily great match, but with the story involved, with the stakes being at a WrestleMania, with both guys leaving the company, it had the atmosphere it had one of the greatest atmospheres of a match of all time. And so that's my number 4.
All right, my number 4 is a pretty big one. It's Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, the streak versus career. I picked this because everything was being put on the line, and like you didn't want the streak to end, but you don't want Shawn Michaels' career to end, and it was very hard. And I believe this was the one with because this was the last tombstone Shawn Michaels received. It was the most devastating tombstone ever. I believe Undertaker like jumped up and then Tombstone pile drived him, and I just thought it was a great match overall, and that everything behind it as well, like everything that was being put on the line was just it's one of those rare moments that just work. Anyway.
All right. My number 3, I will keep it brief because we've already heard it, and that is Bayley versus Sasha Banks at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. I am willing to put this match over a little bit more than Torque, given why it's in my number 3 spot versus my number 5 spot. This match, I put it in my number 3 spot because I was excited for TakeOver Brooklyn leading up to it, but not because it was the main event of Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens, which was a good match in its own right, but because I was excited to see if Bayley was actually going to win the NXT title or the NXT Women's Championship. And the fact that this is the match that I remember the most of that entire show, a women's match, shows just how far NXT has come when it comes to progressing the wrestling business as a whole. This match deserves to be in my number 3 spot. And also, it did lead into TakeOver Respect, which wasn't as good of a match as Brooklyn, but it did ultimately lead to 2 women main eventing a WWE special. So, its historical value is noted, and it gets my number 3 spot for that reason.
All right, my number 3, you've already heard it a little bit before. It's the same competitors that from Torque's match, where it's The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, but this time at WrestleMania 25. Now, I have to admit, this is a little bit of a nostalgia value here, because this was the first WrestleMania I ever watched, and at the time, The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels were my 2 favorite wrestlers. So, like, I was a kid in a candy store. First WrestleMania, and I'm watching my 2 favorite wrestlers wrestle each other. And this is as good as a match, and quite honestly, this is as good a match as you can get without there being a stipulation, without there being, without being able to use weapons or any sort of special hoops to jump through, like climbing a ladder to get down a title. Like this is, it's as good a wrestling match as you can have without adding some foreign elements. Those 2 took each other to the limit, and it was to the point where we're watching the match, like, at least for me, I honestly didn't think one could beat the other. Like, at the end, I was thinking, like, towards the end, I was thinking it was going for a draw somehow, where the Undertaker's still undefeated, but he couldn't beat Shawn Michaels because, and it really had to do with Shawn Michaels, catching Undertaker off guard with the Sweet Chin Music and Undertaker kicking out, and then Shawn Michaels gets hit with the Tombstone, and everyone was pretty certain it was over from then on, because kicking out of the Tombstone was like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but now every time the Undertaker faces someone, it happens. But at that time, kicking out of the Tombstone, I think one person did it before that match. So everyone was certain that Shawn Michaels was done. And then Shawn Michaels kicks out, and that legendary face from The Undertaker of complete disbelief as they're both, as Shawn Michaels kicks out. And then I think it's poetic that in the end, it's Shawn Michaels' hubris that brings him down, because Shawn Michaels had Undertaker on the ropes and decides, hey, I'm going to jump up and I'm going to do a moonsault instead of just staying on the ground, getting another Sweet Chin Music and keeping going. He does the moonsault, gets caught immediately into the Tombstone. It's all over. And it's a great storytelling match with the story already leading into it, but also during the match, there's great storytelling, superb storytelling, And on many people's lists, it's the number one, like, greatest match of all time. So there it is, my number 3.
Which I just want to comment real quick. It's also no coincidence that the best, in my opinion, Undertaker matches at WrestleMania happened 4 years in a row, back to back, with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. So it just goes to show how good those matchups are, putting Shawn Michaels against The Undertaker and Triple H versus The Undertaker.
Well, guess what my number 3 is, guys? It's Triple H versus Undertaker with Shawn Michaels as guest referee. Yes, that is my number 3. For here, I put Triple H/DX versus Undertaker. Because, I mean, there was that point where Shawn Michaels hit him with the Sweet Chin music and then Pedigree, and then the Undertaker kicked out. Like, and that was really, like, just kind of that shocking moment. Like, those were two finishers, two of the most devastating and legendary finishers, if you will, and the Undertaker just kicked out of it. I mean, it was basically impossible odds for Undertaker. Somehow, for the Undertaker, it seemed like the odds were stacked against him. I mean, there were a lot of high points because that was a Hell in a Cell match. There were obviously a lot of high points with Triple H's sledgehammer. Like, he was backed into the corners like, screw this, suck it. And then, Undertaker hits him with the sledgehammer, and then it's all over. And then Tombstone, and then it's all over. I really like this match because it was also very emotional for, Shawn Michaels, because he's like, I gotta end it, but I can't because Undertaker told me to. Both of that. I mean, obviously we knew he wasn't going to end it like that because that'd be really disappointing, but still. And then they did break kayfabe, but it was still cool to see those three walking out with their hands on each other's shoulders.
Good match. No coincidence that all 4 of those matches are on here. Well, my number 2. This was one that didn't really have any competition for number 2. Like, I felt if I put it lower, I wouldn't be doing the match justice. And if I put it in number 1, I'd be missing out on what my actual number 1 is. And this is CM Punk versus John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011. This was the match that came after the infamous pipe bomb. This was after CM Punk opened up and said all the things that he hated about this company. He was the number 1 contender at the time, and he said, I'm going to leave with the championship. And after he had opened up the can of worms about Vince McMahon, everybody was behind him. In fact, if you look up best fan reactions, like WWE has a top 20 about this, CM Punk entering in Chicago at Money in the Bank in 2011, it's like the number 10 best fan reaction, like crowd cheering, and it was probably the loudest boo John Cena has ever gotten. You don't believe me? You can go back and watch that match. And it was also, I like it solely on the fact that it could have been a really good passing of the torch, I guess, from real big, roided out John Cena to lean, agile CM Punk. It could have been the breaking point of the old guard into the new, but it really wasn't. I had a point that I was going to make. The match was good. CM Punk won. He left with the championship. He made Del Rio look like a bitch back when Del Rio was a bitch. And he made Cena look like a bitch because Cena has been a bitch with a lot of the fans. And he also made Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis all look stupid. It was a really good match. And it's probably one of 3 matches that I can go back and watch at any point without having to stop, and I can just kind of drop whatever I'm doing. Hey, I'm going to watch Money in the Bank 2011. Be like, yeah, this is a good match. So it gets my number 2 spot.
All right, and I'm not gonna go lightly on my number 2 and 1 because this is the cream of the crop. This is this is the whole show, and my number 2 has already been said in someone's in someone's top 5 already. But I'm not going to go easy because it's already been talked about. My number 2 is The Undertaker versus Triple H, WrestleMania 27. It's my number 2 match. It's my number 2 match because, in my honest opinion, it's the greatest storytelling match of all time. It was such a cool, like the build up was so natural in the match, where when Undertaker came back, he didn't have an opponent. He just kind of showed up, and he was about to say something, and then Triple H's music plays, and he just comes down in his little no clothes, or he's in street clothes basically. He hops in the ring, and they both just stare at each other for a long time, and Triple H slowly looks at the WrestleMania sign hanging up in the corner of the arena, and then the Undertaker smirks and shakes his head, and then goes to get out of the ring, stops halfway out of the ring, looks back, and then slices his throat at Triple H. And no words were needed for that promo, and it perfectly translated. The other thing that it showed is that it finally started to show the Undertaker's age, like that he was starting to weaken, because for the entire final 8 minutes, I timed it sometime. I think it's 8 minutes. For the final 8 minutes of the match, the Undertaker's on his back. He's on the ground. He's not standing up. Triple H is literally beating the hell out of him. Steel chair, tries to get a sledgehammer involved. Like, Triple H is taking it to the Undertaker, and it takes a well-timed Hell's Gate to finally get Triple H to submit. And I remember, once again, this match has nostalgia value. I was sitting in the ring, or not in the ring, obviously. I was sitting at home, and I was watching it with my grandpa. And the last time my grandpa watched wrestling it had The Undertaker in it. Something like last time the last pay-per-view my grandpa had watched was WrestleMania 8, which had The Undertaker in it. And so this was a little nostalgia bonding, where the bridging of 2 generations via The Undertaker. But we were both really didn't want to see The Undertaker lose, and even my 70-year-old grandpa was getting into it, where when Triple H grabbed the sledgehammer, and me and my grandpa are both going, no, like thinking he's going to bring it down across the Undertaker, and then it's going to be all over. And then finally Triple H loses his grip on the sledgehammer, taps out, and watching it, I was just like, what? Very few times when you watch wrestling do you think, oh, this is the greatest match of all time. Like, you go, all right, that was really good. I'm entertained. And then you come back, you watch it later, and you go, you know what? That was a top match. But watching that match, it was one of the few matches watching it first time where I knew it was one of the greatest matches of all time. And let's not forget, in the end, Undertaker gets a serious injury and can't walk out of the building. He falls down on the ground to the point where Triple H almost instinctually breaks kayfabe and goes to try and help him up. But then halfway remembers that he shouldn't, and the match ends with the Undertaker having to be carted out. He won the match, but quote unquote lost the war. So, number 2, Triple H versus The Undertaker, WrestleMania 27.
Nice. Well, I think we have a theme of The Undertaker because he's been in a lot of matches. My number 2 is Mankind versus Undertaker. The Hell in a Cell match. I'm not sure what pay-per-view it was at.
King of the Ring, 98.
Yes, but I mean, that's a match I can always go back and just watch. It's always like it's almost cringeworthy just to see how Mankind gets beaten up. I mean, for God's sake, he's still missing the tooth that he lost in that match. And I mean, there was tags. He fell off the steel cage. He fell through the steel cage. I mean, that was just a lot of great, like, high points and memorable moments that you can always, like, go back to and just watch. And it's just, it really, like, Mankind's just kind of insane in that way, and it just, like, went above and beyond what a regular wrestling match could be by bringing in tacks, tables, cages, all this stuff. So yeah, and it essentially broke Mick Foley. So that's my number 2.
All right. Well, my number 1, and I was sitting here thinking, because I'm like, I know what my number 2 is. It's going to be CM Punk and John Cena Money in the Bank 2011. So I'm thinking, what could be my number 1? And I was thinking about it, and it's actually 2 matches. But you think, well, you can only pick one. But when you hear which matches they are, you'll be like, no, yeah, those have to be one pick. They happened in the same night. It was the first live WWE show that I ever got to see. And it was first Daniel Bryan versus Triple H at WrestleMania 30, and then following up Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton versus Batista at WrestleMania 30 for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I don't really know what else it is that I need to say. This was the first big live match that it is that I ever watched. It was Daniel Bryan, who to this day is still one of my favorite wrestlers, even though he's out of commission at the moment. It had it exemplified the underdog story. That's how I would describe it. And while the other matches, I can drop what it is that I'm doing and go back and watch and be entertained, this is the kind of match where I don't have to drop what I'm doing. I can plan a day around, okay, at this time, I'm going to go back and watch Daniel Bryan's match. I'm going to go back and watch Daniel Bryan's matches. And that is my number 1 pick.
All right, so we've already heard a theme around 2 wrestlers, by my top 5 and your guys' top 5, of having The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels in it. And my number 1, I ran into a dilemma because I literally just said that I think Undertaker Triple H at WrestleMania 27 is the greatest storylined match of all time. So what could I possibly pick to follow that match? Well, I had to pick one that is semi under the radar. Like, I ran into this match just randomly clicking through pay-per-views on the WWE Network. And even though I was around watching even though I was watching WWE at the time of this match, I still didn't comprehend how big of an importance this match was. And this is Bad Blood 04. It is Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, Hell in a Cell. And it's a match that, like, if you look at people's top 10s, top whatever, in most cases it's not on there. And that's because it isn't a big pay-per-view. Bad Blood isn't a big pay-per-view. All of my matches up until this point were either in the Royal Rumble or it was at WrestleMania. But here's my number pick at Bad Blood. Like, you don't even think about it, but this is Shawn Michaels and Triple H. They are finishing the feud that had built since the previous year's SummerSlam, where Shawn Michaels came back from his career-ending injury, only to be betrayed by his best friend Triple H. And over the course of a year, they had spectacular matches where Shawn Michaels beat Triple H to become champion, to be in the first Elimination Chamber. They had a 3 Stages of Hell match, which almost made it onto this list, where Triple H came out on top, and this was their final gem. And like most matches on my list, there was no title involved. This match didn't need a title to be important. Both of them, like Triple H had already lost his championship. It was just to finish the rivalry. Triple H versus Shawn Michaels at Bad Blood to end the Bad Blood. And I had when I was watching it, I had the advantage of I didn't know who was going to win the match. Like most matches you watch on the WWE Network, you know whereabouts who's going to win. But this match went back and forth. Chair shots, sledgehammers. Both men are bleeding within 5 minutes of the match. It gets so intense, the match is so long. I'm pretty sure it's the longest match in Hell in a Cell history. It's something like 45 minutes long. The match is so long that Shawn Michaels has enough time to get cut open, bleed, have the blood dry from his face and wipe off, so it looks like he's barely bled at all, then to get reopened and bleed again. So, and it's a Hell in a Cell that has steel chairs, sledgehammers. Shawn Michaels pulls out a freaking ladder and inside a Hell in a Cell. And finally it ends with just a heroic back and forth between the two where you don't care that Triple H is heel. You don't care that Shawn Michaels is face. They're going back and forth. It ends with a heroic where Shawn Michaels hits Triple H with the Sweet Chin music. And you go, surely it's over after 40 minutes of this. 1, 2, Triple H kicks out. They both use each other because they're so dead, basically. They use each other to climb up. Triple H gets the upper hand. Pedigree Shawn Michaels. 1, 2, Shawn Michaels kicks out. And if you're watching this, you're going, what the hell? What the hell? And once again, they both have to climb, use any object to climb up because they can no longer get up under their own power. And Shawn Michaels goes for the Sweet Chin music. Triple H ducks it. Another pedigree. 1, 2, 3. And it was a heart-stopping match, especially the end, that two men went through mutual hell together. And it was very entertaining. So it's my number one pick. What else can I say? Besides what I've already said.
And finally, it comes down to me for my number one pick. This match is a match I can always, like, when I'm sitting down with these guys and we're always talking like, hey, you want to watch some wrestling? We can always refer to this match. I picked the Dudleys versus Hardys versus Edge and Christian for the tag team titles in a TLC match at WrestleMania, I believe. Yes? Okay.
Which one?
The Dudleys,
because there were
Hardys,
two.
and Edge and Christian.
That happened twice.
It was the one where Rhino, Lita, and the other dude came in and interfered. Where Edge and Christian won.
Was that at WrestleMania 17, I think?
Yes, I believe so. But anyway, obviously these guys have been working together forever. I mean, these are great tag teams. Probably the best tag teams the WWE has ever seen. I mean, there were so many high points with the Dudleys falling off the ladders, and with Jeff Hardy doing all his dangerous moves, and it was a match you didn't want to end. Like, you just kept watching it, and you're like, this can't end. You want more, and that's what a match should do. and I really enjoyed it. It's always a match I can just say, hey, want to watch wrestling? Sure. What do you want to watch? This is one of those matches that that goes in my mind. One of the first matches. But anyway, that's my top 5. That's Edge's top 5, and that's Gibby's top 5. And I think that wraps it up for this common cast. I know it's a bit long, but we at least you got some insight on our favorite matches. Real quick,
time limits are boring.
Yeah, time limits are shitty and stupid. Anyway, before we go, follow us at TG Commoncast on Twitter. See what we're posting and stuff. Gibby is in charge of that account, so he will be keeping you up to date, like when we're recording, when videos are posted, all that stuff. And Edge is over there. Not, I don't think he's. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway.
He's our resident talker. That's all we have him on for.
Anyway,
Wait, what?
Follow us on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram at Torque2024. You might as well. I mean, why not? I post some good things. I haven't been on in a while, but you should see some good things. Anyway, my name is Torque. These are Gibby and Edge. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Leave your comments of your favorite matches below, and we will see you on the next Common Cast.